Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's topic is Seema Haider. If you didn't know the story, here's the summary in 1 minute. Seema Haider is a Pakistani lady. She was from Karachi. She was married with 4 children. Uh, Her husband, Mr. Haider, he works in Saudi Arabia, and last 3 years or so, he's been out of country means out of Karachi and Pakistan. So during this time, Seema was taking care of her 4 children, of their 4 children. In the meantime, she was playing an online game called PUBG, and she fell in love with an Indian guy named Sachin, and then she became desperate to meet him. Tried legal means to come to India. She couldn't get the visa to India directly come, so they agreed that Sachin, because he didn't have a passport and couldn't travel to Dubai, he could go to Nepal without a passport. And Sima decided to come to Nepal, so they met in March of this year, stayed there for 7 days, and according to their statements, they married in a Nepalese temple following Hindu rituals. Sima went back to Pakistan, and Sachin came back to India. Now, in May, from Nepal though, actually they had a discussions that Sima wanted to come to India pretty much without her children, leaving her children in Pakistan. She was agreeing to that, but Sachin insisted that she brings back her children back to India. So what Seema did in this time, she sold all her assets and properties and then managed to get passports for her 4 children. Eventually, via Dubai, she traveled to Nepal legally, and then from Nepal to India as an Indian citizen. She, of course, lied in the border so that she can come to, and that was being helped by Sachin and whoever not. Now, that is the shortcut of the stories. Then she came to India, stayed there for about a month without anybody's notice. And then, after Seema's kind of advice, Sachin approached a lawyer because they wanted to get their children into school, and they were trying to figure out what the legal process is to get their cards and whatnot so that they can be legally admitted to schools. So all this approach is just legal. There is nothing that is secretive, nothing that is conspiratory against any state or country. During this process, they went to a lawyer, and then the lawyer apparently was faking to cooperate with them, but later on, or maybe right that time, the lawyer figured out that this is something that he or she, the lawyer, must inform the legal authorities of this country because she's an illegal Pakistani citizen residing in India, and he is duty bound to inform. When they inform the law enforcement authorities, both of them are taken into police custody. They are being interviewed, stayed there for 3 4 nights, and then they were granted bail. And under the bail, with certain conditions, terms and conditions, they are now living in that country. And since then, they became celebrity all over India, and then the social medias through Pakistan as well. They are being talked about. While they're being talked about, there are two different angles of these things. One is that the lady fell in desperate love, so she decided to convert to Hinduism, and then she speaks fluent Hindi, and then that's why she is now in India, and she is happily married to Sachin. One is that side of this coin. The other side is the conspiratory angle of it, that she must be an ISI agent, and ISI must have sent her to India to conspire against India and then the state of India. Now, what these analysis, particularly, let's look at the simple things of these things, how they fell in love, the conspiracy angle of things. I'm very surprised that some renowned TV journalists, some TV channels, prominent TV channels, and some YouTubers, for example, which many of them I used to respect quite a bit. For example, Major Gaurav, then Arnab Goswami of one of the TV channels, And Sumit Pierre, one of the other channels, they talk about defense and strategy and whatnot. But I'm so surprised by their kind of dumb-like argument that how she could be an ISI agent, because it misses all the rational points that someone would be sending that lady as an ISI agent. I think the real ISI people in Pakistan would be laughing at their intellect, particularly Arnab Goswami, Major Gauravaria, or Sumit Pierre like experts, and who are talking about this could be an ISI game. Because anything that happens between India and Pakistan, and if it is somewhat illegal, then it's an ISI agent. You must have some kind of common sense first to work out. Now, the other side is, let's talk about the other side, that the lady fell so much in love with this guy Sachin that she couldn't resist selling her properties, taking all her children, leaving her husband in Saudi Arabia unnoticed, leaving her sisters and brother in Pakistan, and then she all the way took the risk to come to India. Of course, by now, one gentleman from Pakistan came out claiming that actually he also used to play that PUBG game with Seema, and Seema actually approached him to be her uh, husband. She would like to marry him. Let's not go to that far or that extent. What I am concluding from all the things now. Oh, sorry. In the meantime, what happened is through her day-long interviews with the TV channels and journalists and YouTubers over the last 5, 7 days, Shima has spoken a lot. There are, of course, certain things that got to be noted that she's only class 5 educated. She speaks very, very, very good Hindi. She speaks, or she rather uses English words very nicely and articulately while she is speaking Hindi mostly. And she speaks very convincingly while hiding some facts, or even here and there she distorts facts when interviewing with the television or the YouTubers. One thing she is being appreciated, that everything in her doesn't qualify, or should I say doesn't qualify, goes above and beyond her grade 5 education. And that creates the doubt that if she is really somebody sent by ISI. But again, as I said, I mean, this is a foolish, dumb hypothesis to make that she has been sent by ISI. I just don't want to put any of the arguments against, but it's a common sense thing, and I think the Indian analysts, they are just missing their common sense to apply first, that how she cannot be an ISI agent. Anyhow, so that will be proved later anyway. What the thing that everybody else is trying to miss out is that her psychological state of mind. There are some people. I wish there were some psychological psychopaths, or the what's called the psychiatrists, who could be interviewed in some of the TV channels or the YouTuber channels. But what kind of mental frame forces a person to do this kind of rash decision, irrational rather decisions? But these are not exceptions. There are examples of that. One thing that happened is her husband was outside for a long time, over 3.5 years. She is beautiful. She's very beautiful, and she has an extrovert nature. In one of her interviews, she mentioned that she really, even though she's a female and living in Pakistan, she didn't feel like that she was ever oppressed by anybody. So she was neither oppressed by her husband nor anybody. She was not. That is true. Even though she tried to reinforce that through many of her statements that she was being bullied by her husband or tortured by her husband. Take this apart. You got to look at the core psychological point of view, the psychopath point of view. I think, in fact, she married her husband through a love affair, if you call it. They fell in love. So they married. But again, whenever she feels that she's being ignored and her the craze for love, again, it's a psychopath, psychiatric disorder. I don't know how to term it. I got to be a psychiatrist, but the from the what's called the from the rule of elimination, I can conclude to this point that she has that a psychopathic psychiatric disorder, if you call it, for which she feels the craze for love for somebody, whoever that could be. And because her husband was away for quite some time, and then she started to find somebody who could give her the mental support, be it mental and then the mental physical combination of things, the total love thing. And she must have fallen in love maybe many times during this period, or tried to and failed maybe, but didn't or match mentally. But what she found in Sachin is that he's a very humble person. And Sachin responded positively, and through that they fell in deep love. Now, the deep love, what she lacks is the sense of rationality. She lacks the complete sense of rationality, or lacks completely the sense of rationality, rather, um, because she has four children, and she has some properties. She has a husband, and because of the lack of rationality, her craze for that moment of demand just grew so much so that she decided to give up everything, pretty much everything. Actually, she was ready to give up her children as well. It was Sachin who forced her, rather convinced her to take the children back with her, and that's when she did. But she gave up everything: her properties, her total assets, her husband, her reputation, her religion, everything. Now, this is a psychological disorder. Nothing, nothing, and nothing. This is a psychological disorder. And to satisfy the desire that's coming through that psychological disorder, she did everything and came to Sachin. Now, what happens next? So, so what happens next is, say, when she continues to live with Sachin, and say there was nothing happening, everything was fine, living with Sachin, she got two children. And then after that thing, because of her age, either that craze or the psychological disorder would have disappeared, which is very unlikely, or the other way this could have been that once, say, she became an Indian citizen and then she realized that she still has that duty, of course, but still maintaining that psychological disorder, then she would divorce Sachin, she would leave Sachin the same way, and she would fall in love with another person. And that another person doesn't matter. It could be of any religion, because by this time she is not actually caring for any particular religion to be the issue. But if if she gets into a Muslim boy, and then she would say that, yeah, you know what, I came into Hinduism and I found that this religion is just so garbage, so I'm coming back to that religion just to take a shelter why she was taking the same decision again. Everything she is doing and everything she would be doing is only because of a psychological disorder. That disorder thing, if it was treated before, then or could be treated, I don't know if it can be treated at all, but could be treated, then this whole cinema wouldn't have been, the plot of this cinema wouldn't have been developed. But I'm very disturbed by the experts, particularly in the Indian media, be it TV, be it newspaper, or be it the YouTubers, who are trying to link her with ISI. I find these personalities nothing but dumb-headed dull, and then the real ISI people would be laughing at them because they have no clue. There are so many thousands of other means that ISI could get information from the very core inside of India, and they are getting, because India is a country where they have so many favorable channels and links to get this information through and from. But these Indian idiots pundits, they are just making them just what's called laughing stock by talking rubbish about this lady and linking it to ISI. There is nothing about ISI thing, nothing about thing. Everything that the information needs to be extracted is rooted from the fact that she has been lying. Yes, she has been lying. Is rooted from the fact that there is a psychological disorder in persons like her, and they take these kind of rash decisions. And Sachin, because he is a very humble boy, yes, there is that vulnerability, or there had been that. I don't know if it is possible now after this entire episode that has happened. And of course, we don't know if she would be, India's judiciary will allow her to continue living her in India, or they will be sending back to Pakistan. And that process itself might take 10 years or no, or more. So we don't know that. But forget about all these things. Because of this episode, even if she is allowed to stay in India, she might just stay as Sachin's wife. But had not these things happened because of her psychiatric problem, her mental disorder thing, psychological disorder issues, she would have left Sachin in a few years too. So yes, gentlemen, ladies and my viewers, please don't take these things as a security thing, as an ISI thing. Yes, what India has to take care of, how things happen that someone from Pakistan could um, sneak into India through Nepal. So it is a thing between India and Nepal to work on, or even the Indian border security agencies to how to work on, particularly between India and Nepal. When a person illegally comes to India from Pakistan. And this is not an unknown issue. This had been happening from the past too. Even the real criminals were coming too. So this is nothing new. And so nothing to talk about on TV channels. They have to work on. But please stop talking about the ISI garbage on TVs or YouTube channels about Seema. That is not the case. It is a totally a psychiatric problem issue case. She is, if you call it a psychopath, then could be, but um, nothing more and beyond that. Thanks for listening to my channel.